Hey everybody, welcome to our YouTube broadcast for today. It's Wednesday, Doug. Can you believe it's Wednesday already?
That's what I was just thinking. I mean, they're clicking along, but we're doing 3 a week, and so it's like it they come and I was downloading Otherverse, and I was thinking, wow, I got kind of an easy morning this morning. I can get Otherverse all installed, and then I went, oh my gosh, it's Wednesday.
Right?
I
We
gotta
gotta
do a live.
gotta do a live, gotta think about what's happening in the world of trading. So I did notice that Bitcoin is giving us a little clearance special, a little bit of one back into the high 50s, which is pretty phenomenal. I remember it seems like a few months ago we were rolling around in the 20s
I
um,
know.
and now
16.
we get up into the higher 60s and then we flow back into the 50s and then we go back up and it's just fun to watch the waves just rolling
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. If we only had a crystal ball, man, how much would we bought when it was 16? But you didn't buy when it was 16 a whole lot because you were really waiting for 3. You wanted it to get down to like, was it
Back
3,000 or
then.
6,000?
Well,
Yeah.
it's 6,000, but yeah, it was later when I had to move my number up to 6,000. But I
Yeah.
do remember when we were buying some of that down at
We bought a lot at
$300.
3,000.
Remember that? We
Yeah.
took our whole community, we were introducing them to crypto, and Bitcoin took a hard fall, and some of our community members got to jump out and grab some $300 Bitcoin. I wish that day would come back. That would be fun. If we could just go back in time, but is that the
Right.
date you would choose?
Oh, no, I'd go back when it was like a nickel.
Yeah, when it was
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
pennies. Can you
Yeah.
imagine? Mm.
Well,
Well,
it's like other verses a nickel now. I guarantee. No, I can't guarantee anything. Stop
mm,
that, Doug. Stop the
ouch, here
guarantee.
comes my talk.
All right, get your talk, and then I'll just say what I'm going to say.
Just a quick reminder, you guys, we are here for educational purposes only. When we start tooting our horns about knowing something about a coin, you can't take what we're saying as literal because we are not financial advisors. We're just here for fun and to show you how to trade and to get really excited about a project called Otherverse, Doug.
Right. And even though they do call me the wizard, I don't have a crystal ball
Right.
and I can't see into the future. But if I could guarantee something, I would guarantee this, that there'll be a day in the future, I believe, and this is just my belief, that just as we just said, if we could go back to a date in time, we would go back to when Bitcoin was a nickel and I would buy a whole bunch of Bitcoin. I believe there'll be a day in time that somebody will say, if I could only go back when Otherverse was a nickel, I would buy a whole bunch of Otherverse and so on. So, you know, I we can't tell anybody what to do. We can't tell, like I said, they call me the wizard, but I don't have a crystal ball. And who knows? We'll see what the future brings. But we're in this space to take advantage of opportunities. So,
Yes.
you know, that's where we're at. So
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited. I'm really excited about Otherverse. We've got some really fun stuff going on that we'll talk about but at the end of the call with Otherverse. But Doug, with Bitcoin doing what it's doing, I was looking at my objective today. It doesn't seem to quite be following Bitcoin. It looks like it's high, but if you zoom out a little bit, you'll see that we're still pretty low even in
right.
objectives. But I was thinking that it might be a good day to go through some of our grids. We haven't turned all of our grids back on yet. I know I'm going
Right.
kind of, what's the word? I'm being a little conservative like
Systematically.
you. What is happening? When did Deb
Eh,
become
I
conservative?
I have had a horrible influence on you.
You have, right? Instead of jumping into every single grid and going crazy and I've got two open right now. I've got another, I think, six that are just sitting there waiting for me to do something with them. And
Right.
let's today take a moment and look at your grids and see if you have anything
Okay.
that you'd like to open up or talk about why
Oh,
you'd want to open it up or why you wouldn't.
sure. And yeah, what we can do. Yeah, I think I have a number of them here. Let me get my chart up here. Hang on one second and let me share my
Hey, Gary
screen.
Brennan, nice to see you out there. Hey, Candace, big apologies to Candace. We usually tell her we're about to go live, so she has a little bit of notification. And today, boom, I pressed the button and now I haven't told Candace. So nice to see you, Candace. Thanks for joining.
Candace, that was all Deb, wasn't me.
Right, 100%, right? I'll take it.
Throw Deb under the bus. I'm throwing Deb. Okay. All right. I'm sharing my screen. God, we have fun. Oh my goodness. All right. So, okay. So you said, okay, let's analyze our, our trades that basically we have turned off. All of the ones that I have buy that says buy here, that means my buys are off. And I can see that in all of those cases also, Deb, I went through and deleted all of my lines because I have no lines here. So I've turned the buys off, left the grids here to be ultimately maybe reactivated in the future. And that's what you're talking about doing now. But
Mhm.
I also deleted my grid lines because I took that money and used it other places. In fact, I took some of the money out of this small trade account and bought some other verse with. So
Right,
I
exactly.
used it really differently, right? So that's all good. So really what we need to do is look at the ones that have no lines on them or and have buys turned off. So this one I just so that you guys know the difference. Well, there's really no difference, but functionally there is a difference, but it's functionally acting the same. I can turn my buys off and have grid lines here and it won't take any trades. Here you see the word none. It means I don't have buys or sells turned off. They're both still on, but I still have no grid line. So it's not going to take any trades. So, you know, there's multiple ways to do things with inside the software, which creates a lot of flexibility. But I just want you to not get confused because you see buys here. I'm saying buys are shut off, but you don't see that here, but yet I don't have any grid lines. So I'm not going to take any trades. So
Right.
we want to analyze anything that doesn't have any grid lines or that the buys are off and see if there's something we want to do. And here's a great example of that. Here I have one grid line, but I have my buys off. So here I have money sitting, not doing anything for me because I got a grid line, but it's not going to take any trades. So we'll look at this. We'll look at Doge also. We'll see if there's a way for us to use that.
Nice.
Okay, so let's dive in. We got to look at the chart on each one of these, Deb, as we go through this. So we're going to start at file, and really what I think I'm going to be, and I think you already talked about it. I think you said injective. Maybe you looked at it and maybe it wasn't following Bitcoin. We'll see when we get there. But that's really what I'm kind of looking at. What is following Bitcoin? What's not following Bitcoin? Where are we at in relationship to barriers? Because if I turn one of these back on and I add a grid line to it, I want to make sure that I get a good buy. And in fact, let's look at the one that we did on Monday before I jump into this stuff,
Oh,
which was
right. You did.
Bitcoin.
I remember we set up we set up not a conservative. You changed it to
Aggressive.
aggressive
Yeah, I was
pullback
on a
line.
custom,
That's
right?
right.
And I
Look at
missed
that.
this entry down here on the custom, but I went conservative or went aggressive and I got in. Now, I also set a very high target profit, so I was actually in profit here, Deb, and it did not get out because I set a higher profit and it was about 3%. So, there are things that we're going to develop for this in the future. We have a trail buy. I may set up a trail sell or a barrier sell once it defines a barrier and retests. Then it then it moves my stop up. So it would have got me out in a little bit of profit. Then I could have rebought here. Those are things that will develop more in the future. But for right now, I'm in the game. It did what I wanted it to do, but Bitcoin's coming down. And you talked about that. We're back at around 59,000. That's about exactly where we bought at. And so is there another coin that I want to engage with that is maybe doing the same thing that Bitcoin is doing and has been following the Bitcoin pattern? So let's look at that. All right. So, but I like that entry.
I know,
So
it's great. I love
yeah,
it.
yeah, happy with that. All right.
Mhm.
And just to be clear, guys, I did not want to get out with 3% profit. If it breaks lower, comes down to this barrier, I will at some point, excuse me, cost average this. I don't care that I didn't get out in profit here because it's not enough profit.
Right.
So
And you did on that same training on Monday, if you remember, you did set up auto cost average to
yes,
add to this trade if it dropped another, what was it? 10,
10%, I think,
10% or 15?
or
I can't
11
remember what you
because I
chose.
did the trail buy, if
That's
I
right.
remember
That's right.
correctly.
It was 11. You're
So
right.
so let's look at what I did,
Yeah.
because I can't remember exactly, but um
Oh, 13.
no,
Nope.
look at it, I did 8
8. 8%.
because 7 was the range
Right.
that I measured. So I did 8 plus 1. So if it drops 8%, it will start trying to do a trail buy.
Yeah.
So
Brilliant.
yeah, yeah.
So you have that
Guidance.
one trade in play. And
Yeah.
nSights is going to take care of it. If the market goes down far enough, it's going to add more money to that trade, cost averaging your original buy down in the market.
All right.
Or if it turns around and starts going up, then it's going to get you out in profit. And I think the 13, yeah, your profit percentage that you would ask for is 13%. So you missed it by 10%.
I was
Uh,
close.
yeah, that's a good
But
number.
I believe in Bitcoin going up. So
Yeah.
why would I get out at 3 with or 4 with the chance of it still going to go up um, versus miss that 3%? Now, if I set up a trail exit, right? If when we develop that and I get that designed the way I'd want to do it, which is different than a normal trail exit. I don't do anything like what the normal market does. But anyways, if I set it up the way I would set it up, then it would have come back. It would have given me some profit, and I'd be getting back in somewhere with my trail buy now going down. And so I would have banked a little bit of profit. But since I can't do that at this point, what I'm not willing to get out in a little bit of profit. What I'd rather do is have it drop, put more money in the game and have more cost averaged in so that when it did hit my 13% profit, I am getting out in a lot more profit. So anyways, it's just the way that you play the game, and there's
Yep.
many ways to play it. So all right,
I love
so
it.
let's go look at file. Okay, it looks like it's following Bitcoin. Uh, we're a little ways from its barrier. I think Bitcoin is actually closer to the current barrier than file is. Let's look at that. Yeah, we're right
Yeah.
on there's 2 barriers here. Let's take the lower of the 2 barriers, and we're going to measure down to, we want to see the bodies. Now, these are Hakanashi candles, so they kind of average out the bodies. 1.3% to almost 2%. Okay. So that's where Bitcoin is. Let's go look at now file, excuse me, and click on that and see if we're in about the same range. So we're already below its little interim barrier, but they're
Right.
not quite the same. Not quite the same. So this is one that we're, so about 3%,
Almost 3%.
okay, to the bodies, and definitely below 3.5 to the wick lows. So a little bit further down, a little bit more room to move for file. Okay, let's do the same thing with LTC. LTC isn't following Bitcoin at all right now. So this could roll over a little bit later. Uh, and still, follow its own pattern or end up ultimately following Bitcoin. So wouldn't want to take a trade. We're up against a barrier range. We can see that really, really clearly from wick low to our body low, wick low, whichever you want to do. I use the bodies on the Hakanashis, but I'm right in the middle of this range that ended up breaking down, coming back, retesting probably the 50 percentile of that range, and then ultimately failing and closing below again and coming down. So, and we can see that it retested that range already once. Okay. And so wouldn't be really excited about jumping into LTC at this point. All right. So file is a possibility. I already have a trade here, ALU. Let's look at it. Ooh,
Well,
look at that.
the Bitcoin
It's
slump.
already, it looks like it's definitely coming down harder than file. And 2% within that same range as Bitcoin. Really different pattern up here, but it had
Had a really nice push there, didn't it?
really did strong, clear, clean waterfall down.
Mhm.
Uh,
The current waterfall looks a little more intense than that first one
yeah,
there.
I'm not. Yeah, yeah. Not sure that ALU would be something. Let's look at the non-Hakanashi candles. Let's go to standard candles. One thing I really do miss in the DeFi, and we got to go to TradingView and some central exchanges on some of the coins that have volume, is somehow we got to really work at getting volume in here. Because
Mhm.
really what I'd want to do here is really see if I'm seeing signs of exhaustion, volume, uh, and I don't see it in terms of the candle pattern. I don't have much of a wick here, and I am on standard candles here. So, I would really want to see exhaustion volume here or some wick, something to tell me that for ALU that I would want to maybe participate in that. I get it with the Hakanashi here with the prior candle, a little bit of exhaustion here.
Mhm.
It's iffy for me here. So let's look on.
Okay.
Okay. Not totally against, but definitely got my mind little sideways there. Now see how different this pattern is? We already see some attempts to hold where
Right.
in ALU we didn't see really much exhaustion at all other than in the Hakanashi. Now this is not following Bitcoin as much either. And this is a longer way, probably, 5% to its barrier. So still kind of holding a little bit more of the up pressure, which is kind of interesting, right? If it can hold this, Bitcoin find its base and bounce, then we might retest the high, or even make a new high. And I'm 4% to the high here for near. Okay. Now you said injective. You looked at that.
Yeah, because I'm trading injective right
Oh,
now. And what I noticed is it didn't seem to be following. If you
yeah.
pan out a little bit more, you see that it feels like we're high in the market. But when you pan out, you can see that we're really not.
But we're right up against a daily barrier.
Mhm.
And so now here's what could happen with injective, and maybe think about this, Deb, make a mental note. that if injective can hold here, right, while Bitcoin finds a bottom and retests, that may free injective up to break this barrier, and we may get a push in injective. So this is not where I would want to get into the game, but if I was already in the game and I was slightly in profit, I might consider taking some of the profit out, leaving some of the profit in, and trying to make a push, right? But it's definitely not a point that I would want to add, or I would want to have an initial buy-in
Right.
at. You know,
Now,
I
what if a person already has a trade and they missed that low for a cost average?
down here.
But do
Yeah,
you
I would
think,
not cost average up here.
right,
I would set a, you know, if I were going to do a cost average, I would set a custom cost average with a pullback to a barrier or an area that got me in, or I'd want this to break and go ahead and make the profit that I want to make. So I
nice.
wouldn't want to add any additional risk
Mhm.
at and on a barrier that on a daily, I'm showing already a little bit of rejection on
Right,
that barrier. So it's a lot of risk to buy into a top
right,
that's up against a barrier. I'd rather buy in slightly deeper so that at least I'm in profit time I get to this barrier and I have more decisions that I can make on
nice.
what I want to do around actually being in profit. And
Great.
you know, we can, yeah, yeah, it's just too high of a risk of a failure up against a barrier, especially if Bitcoin's already rolling over, right?
Right,
And has rolled over. So lots of times we'll see some of the coins lag barrier. I talked about the divergence. I did a divergence class on Bitcoin. When Bitcoin's going down and other coins aren't following, that can be a divergence down
right,
for that coin, meaning that it creates an exit opportunity because Bitcoin is already going down. Because what they'll do is they'll follow Bitcoin sometimes after Bitcoin's move, they trail that move. So knowing that there could be a divergence in that, that would definitely not be something I would want to buy into.
right.
So,
Okay, awesome.
okay. All right. Let's see here. Now watch it break up. But it can do that. It's just you gotta play what you know and the probabilities of what might happen, not risk on what you hope, right?
Right,
So if it breaks up and it doesn't show the divergence down, it's not that what I said is incorrect. It's just that the market did something different, and I wasn't willing to take the risk based on what I'm seeing.
right,
Okay, which is really different, right? So you can't guarantee anything, but all you can do is look at the patterns, look at the pressure, look at what's going on, and then make a judgment call of what's right for you. That's it. That's all you can do, guys.
right.
There's nothing else to trading other than doing your best to read the signs, and
And steering clear
then
of
go from
hopium.
there. Yeah, yeah, and you don't want to get into hopium. Hopium's painful because, man, when it doesn't work,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, trust me, I've been there.
I think every single one of our traders has had to learn that lesson themselves.
Right. And it's a very valuable lesson that usually costs you some money.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and that's because it costs you money, it's the best lesson.
Hmm.
If there was no skin in the game, no cost effect on a lesson like that, then there's no real lesson. There is no real impact on you that starts building those trader building blocks that helps you become a better trader. So you always pay for education. I don't care what kind of education you're getting, you're going to pay for it, right? And so that's a good lesson, Deb. And
Yeah, for sure.
you shouldn't be upset at yourself for those kind of lessons.
For sure. Yeah,
So,
I,
okay.
without the lesson, then you get in the car and drive to Vegas and think that I got this. This just all makes sense. I can make this machine do what I think it's going to do. I can make this dealer give me the right hand. I'm on fire, right?
Right. I
Yeah.
yeah, I did that. I was on a trip with my dad and we were going across Nevada and in Reno, I won like 2,500 bucks playing blackjack and I don't like gambling. Okay. I always say that. And then we stopped in Elko because it was storming and I won like I won some more money. I can't remember how much, but I won some more money. And we went on to Colorado, did our things in Colorado. We're coming back. We had a really bad storm in Elko, Nevada, and we had to stay there overnight, 24 hours actually, because the freeways were frozen. And there's this younger, pretty dealer, I would call her.
Mhm.
And in about a half hour, she took all my money.
Well, but how could that
It's all
be?
it took her, right?
How could you
It,
lose? It doesn't make any sense. You were winning,
I was on a winning streak, right?
right?
It's gambling.
Yeah,
Gambling, and there are the people like you're saying who believe that they have the power over the cards or they can see patterns in the cards. There are no patterns in cards. They're random, right? And so there's one game that I do have odds over, which is the roulette wheel.
roulette.
But and I taught that in Vegas one year, how to win in that, but it's painful when you're in the drawdown period.
Yeah.
So, okay, enough of gambling. All right, so I have Doge here, and I have a line but no trade. I have it turned off,
So you have
and
$50 just sitting on this grid that will sit there until the end of time unless you A, turn your buys back on, or B, take that money out of the grid and use it elsewhere.
yeah, and I've done well with Doge.
Look at that.
I've got a lot of I have a lot of blue dots, right?
Yeah.
So I've done well with Doge. Um, But if Doge came all the way back down to its base here, where I started all of this, maybe I'd get back involved in Doge, right? Because it does have a strong community. It does have people that believe in it, whatever they're believing in. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not a big Doge follower, right? Um, but I do know it has a strong community. So that's enough information for me to, if it came back down, to want to look at it and analyze, go out, see the social sentiment of the Doge community when I'm over here and it's down at that point. Do I still have a strong community? Do I still have people really following and believing in it? The odds are I probably would, but I would want to go out and confirm that before I would get into another trade with Doge,
Right.
even down here. So at this point, I think I don't have a lot of money in this mid wallet. So what I think I will do, and let's go look. Yeah, I have like $84 to play with. Not a whole lot, right? But I think what you said, Deb, is I have $50 in Doge. Was that right?
Yeah, just sitting there, just
Doing
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 nothing.
nothing for me, right?
Mhm.
So I'm going to take this $50. I'm going to put it back in my mid wallet because I'm not ready to do anything with Doge. So my three vertical dots, I hit edit, go to sorry guys,
That's all right. Yep,
go
that
back
shows
to
you have
pullback
one
lines.
pullback with one trade and you have nothing open. So you're
So I'm going to
deleting
hit
the pullback
delete.
line.
There we go. Now I got to do my
Look at you with the phone at the ready.
don't tell them that. Some people don't know that I didn't have it a couple of times. And we don't want that secret out there that I had to
My
get up and
favorite
go
is when
running for it.
you're running around looking for it and it's actually in your back pocket. That was the best.
I wasn't going to tell them that either. Boy, she is a little blabbermouth, isn't she? Gee. Oh my God. That was so insane. Running around looking for it, and it's in my back pocket. Yeah, it's real sick. Now they're thinking, why would I ever listen to something this guy's talking about?
Right.
Okay, I deleted that line. Now I got 0. Okay.
All
0
right.
BUSD committed. I go back to my mid wallet and this should update. There it did.
Look at that.
$134 now. Boom. So now
Excellent.
I got a little bit of money to play with. So
Nice.
maybe I can do more than one, turn more than one back on, or I can turn. Okay, so let's talk about this. I can choose. Now this is going to be very interesting, guys, because I'm gonna walk you through this. I can choose to turn one of these grids back on with 2. If I do $50 per trade, I could do 2 lines.
Lines, yep.
Okay. Or I could choose to turn 2 grids back on with 1 line each. Now, here's a thought for you. This is going to be very good. I think this is going to be kind of open up our minds, expand us a little bit in thinking, what would I want to do, and why would I want to do maybe something different? Okay. All right. File is down and it's going to its barrier, kind of like Bitcoin. Okay. This was about 2% down, if I remember correctly. And if I looked at LTC, it wasn't doing that at all. Okay. And if I looked at near, I remember near was a little bit different. Okay. Near was kind of doing something in between file and LTC. It's dropped a little bit, but it's showing a little bit of up pressure here. So I've got 3 trade charts that are doing different things. But on the other hand, I have ALU, which is dropping like file and dropping like Bitcoin, maybe dropping a little bit harder, but still dropping similar to file and Bitcoin. So I have file, and that's just for sake of argument, ALU and Bitcoin are doing similar things. This is like back to Sesame Street, right?
Right.
These 3 things are the same.
One of these things
Things are
is
different, right?
like the
Right.
other, not like the other.
Not like the other or something, right? But I have 2 that are doing different things. So here's the thought. Here's where I want to take your guys' minds, okay? If I wanted to take $100, $50 each, and I didn't want to put it all on one grid. I wanted to do one grid line for file, and I wanted to take that $50 and put it on something else. Would I want to put it on something that is moving similar or the same? Or would I want to put it on something that is moving different?
I'd put it on something moving different. Otherwise, you're going to be watching the same trade on 2 different grids.
Exactly. So, that, and I find people doing trades on charts they're just doing trades that are all the same, right? On different charts, instead of maybe focusing more maybe like on just Bitcoin and doing slightly larger trades on Bitcoin and doing slightly larger cost averaging. They have their money spread out on all kinds of different charts that are moving the same. So diversification, now they may come back into alignment with each other, but for the moment they're moving different. Now the question is do I want to put something that has no movement down, no pullback down on it at all? We looked at the one that is high and up against a barrier, and I say that's not a good place. That's not where I'd want to take a trade. So I probably want to move in the direction in something that has shown a little bit of down pressure, or if I was in something that had broken a barrier and had pulled back to a barrier, I'd really want to take advantage of maybe what's called a breaking trade, right? But I don't have that. I don't have anything that has broken a barrier and pulling back to a barrier. I have something that's in the center of a barrier that we looked at. So now I have to look at, if I want to do 2 grids, which 2 do I want to do? Okay. So ALU, I'm kind of shying away from. It feels like it's a little harder down, still in the similar pattern to Bitcoin. Think I'll shy away from that. File, I like file. I like the pattern. It's just below the barrier. I think it might have potential to come on down here a little bit deeper. I could set up a custom entry, Deb,
Sure.
on file. We haven't done one of those. And
Sure.
if it doesn't hit it, I'd be okay missing it. All right. So maybe we do that. I like that. And then, the other was near. And I haven't been tracking near. I haven't been tracking the social sentiment of near. But maybe I do near and set it up because it's slightly different, just for the sake of, seeing how things work out here.
Sure.
So,
It'll be fun to follow these. If those are the 2 you chose, it'll be fun to follow them over the next few days and weeks as we
yeah.
continue
Now
and see what
here's what I'm
happens.
looking at with near, and I'm going to get a little bit more technical here. I have a little sideways movement with some up pressure. This up pressure did not take out any prior down candle. What do I mean by that? Here's what I
And
mean.
close higher
Did
than
it
the
close
previous
higher?
downs.
And it did not. And if I
Mhm.
look at on regular candles, it did,
Well,
but on the Hakanashi, it did not. Okay. So I like to see it on the Hakanashi because it averages out movements and kind of balances things. So I can't sometimes get a false indicator or false indication of something, because I get Hakanashi is more of a cost averaging. It averages things out and allows me to
right.
get a little bit different image of market intent. Okay. But if I had gotten a Hakanashi that had closed up even into the wick territory or above the wick, that would have been a strong indication that the market is trying to make a decision to turn around. I don't have that. Okay.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
That was good to show the difference between the Hakanashi and the regular candles, and the reminder that the Hakanashi is an average. And so sometimes it's good to take a look at the candles, but it might not change your mind looking at just straight candles, right?
Yeah. And I got this. I think we looked at the longer time period. I'm up against a barrier, right? Or I'm in the middle of a barrier. So
Yeah.
not super excited about that. Where are we? I'm already in dot with 2 trades. Where were we at with injected? Let's look again. Same thing, not showing really any commitment to the up. Having a hard time finding a second grid that I really want to play with.
There's always the wonder what other coins are doing.
Well, that would be a good question, and I would do that, but we're already a long time into
Yeah, we're
this call,
going,
and
we're
I think
going long today. Sure.
that would be about an hour. I'd love to actually do that. I'd love to go out and maybe find another coin. Tell you what, I'm going to put my $50 into file. I'm going to save the other $50 to the Friday call. If nothing changes with any of these coins, we're going to go out and find another coin on Friday,
I love it. That's perfect.
because I'm not comfortable, right? You guys can see and so I'm not going to force it.
Exactly.
So
We don't do it just to do it, right? We
yeah,
we put thought in and make sure
yeah,
that it feels
yeah.
right.
And I can't do a training that says, do as I say, not as I do.
Right.
So I can't do one of those. So
Right.
anyways, I'm okay with $50 turning a line back on with this. But I can see here. So let's turn on a line again. Let's go to edit. And let's look at, well, let's do one line and let's see what's going to happen. Okay. So I'm going to go to pullback lines.
And you want to make sure you look at your rule, Doug, to make sure it doesn't immediately take a trade.
Yeah.
Kind of want to.
I'm on conservative, right?
No, you're on stand. Yes, you're on conservative. Sorry, Doug.
Yeah. So I'm going to go custom. I'm going to go 20% for a second, and I'm going to update that. So I know that it's not going to execute a trade. I'm going to come back and edit that, guys.
Okay.
Just like Deb said, I don't want to execute. But Deb, I see here. Let's look at my current lines. My current lines were $50. So I'm going to put one line back in. Add one.
Okay, and as soon as he clicks, oh, there's two options here, which I think I would love for you to talk about as well.
Okay.
But as soon as he presses a button to put that $50 to put that grid line on, it's going to pull the 50 back out of his mid wallet and put it into this grid, committed to this grid.
And okay. All right. Let me go do that. It's here somewhere. There it is. I was about ready to click over. All right. There we go. Okay. What do you want me to talk about?
Well, so the first thing is what we're doing is we're updating an existing grid. So the behavior works a little bit different than you're thinking about when you set up a grid for the first time. When you set up a grid for the first time, it looks at where the market is at that moment that you submit, and it will follow your pullback to your desired pullback, wherever you want that to be. Here, we're turning a grid back on. It's going to use the previous high in the market, and that's where it's starting from. So if we're already 25% down and you're saying my pullback rule is conservative at 10%, well, it's going to see that you already hit your first rule because it's looking back, right? A new grid looks at the moment you click submit, it's looking at that moment in time. An existing grid is going back to the previous high, and it's going to start calculating from there. So that's why I said make sure you change your pullback rule so you don't automatically get a trade taken if you don't want a trade taken. Now, sometimes when you're looking at a grid and you want to add a grid line, sometimes it's because, you know what, in this moment right now, I actually want to buy. I want to just buy in right now. I don't need it to pull back. I don't need it to do anything. I like where the market is. I'm right on a barrier. I say go ahead and buy. In that case, we're going to use the update and buy button. Otherwise, if you use the update button, it's going to look at your prior high and it's going to follow your rules to figure out where to take that next trade. And it makes sure that you have up pressure before it takes that trade.
Right.
Yeah.
We almost named this button the Deb button.
Yes, I was the one that pushed. Sometimes I just want in. How come it's not taking my trade? I added a grid line. What's happening, Hamza?
Yeah. So anyway, so yes, great explanation. So now I wonder if my 2FA will still work. Let's see. It did.
Oh,
okay. I'd been told that you can key in those, and even if it runs out, that it's still good as long as you got it keyed in before it ran out.
right.
So
Okay.
we just proved that.
There you go.
And so now I have one line
That
pending.
must be why I always win my race.
Right.
Sorry, remember, I take it as a challenge when it starts to run low. it must be why I always win.
All right,
Here I thought
now
it was
let's
me.
see. Yeah, and you were just, all right. So I don't think the cron job has run for the lines yet.
Squish it down to see your previous.
How long ago was it? There it is. Okay. So there's where it's was trying. Is that 20% down? Let's just see.
That's
Let's measure.
no, no, that's a previous one that you actually took out of that grid. That's not open.
Yeah,
You-
not open. No, this is not open.
Right.
And we're 29% down from the high that it was measuring
From
from.
the last high, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So
Yeah.
it'll take a little, sometimes it'll take a little while for that to update, guys.
Yeah, I opened a grid a few weeks ago and actually had to physically add a custom for like 36% because I didn't want it to take my trade immediately. I needed to, we were 36, we were 30, I don't know, 35% down in the market in that moment. And I wanted it to hit that 36. So when you're turning your grids back on, it feels a little weird because especially when you're only used to setting them up new. Speaking of,
Yeah. So I'm going to adjust this. Hang on.
yeah, so
Before it
Doug, clearly
executes.
you can see he set a custom, but he didn't set his custom low enough to keep from taking a trade almost immediately on this grid. He is well below the threshold. Get that to update and we'll see where it wants to take the trade. That's what the green, this strange green color, I don't know what color it is. We use 3 different colors of green on this chart, which is very confusing. But it's going to show Doug where nSights is going to want to take this trade. And it's using the previous high in the market.
And it took a while for it to do that. There we go.
There.
So
So,
now I'm below the market.
so now you're plenty below. So now you can,
So
so yeah.
now what I did wrong before, guys, I didn't go and look at where it was going to analyze it from and measure down. I just said, 20% is probably enough.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now I can take time and analyze this and figure out where I want it to execute this trade at.
So this is good. You know,
So
when we were looking at this, we weren't reminded of that. Oh, do you just want to buy it right now? Or do you know, what do you want? What do you want to do? And it was in that moment that I was like, wait, this isn't a new grid. This is an existing grid. This is going to work differently than what we're thinking. So, you know, hopefully when you guys get to that screen and you're reminded of this, you'll go back and do some measurements from your previous high and make sure that you're getting in where you want to. Because left to its devices, nSights had already hit the first rule when you clicked submit, Doug, on that 20%.
yeah,
It was
it was
just going
just
to
waiting
sit
for up
here and
pressure.
wait for some up pressure, and then it would have taken your trade, which wouldn't have
Now,
been bad where you're at now.
that's right. I could have been okay with that, 100% okay with that. So to be really clear, even though it had the dot up here, right? What it's waiting for now, because I executed that trade, it's waiting for this to get some buy pressure
Yep.
to come in. And if it qualifies for that buy pressure, then it would have executed anywhere from here down until it finds that buy pressure. But what I'm going to do is set this up, and that would have ensured, Deb, the nice thing about that would have ensured that I wouldn't have missed this trade.
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
Mhm.
I'd be getting in no matter what. Now, if I
Right,
do it the way that I'm going to do it, I'm going to set the trade barrier here. Now, if I don't come down and hit it, I could miss this trade and wait for the next pullback, right?
right.
So so it really is nice to maybe have it above here. And if I convinced that I want to get in, I would do that, but I'm going to force it to come to me.
Yes.
And if I miss it, I miss it, right?
Yep.
So I'm okay with that.
Absolutely.
And I've measured this and I'm at 37% from where it's doing the pullback from. So what I got to do is I got to come in here. I'm going to edit this now that I've taken time and done my measurements, right? And I'm going to do a custom 37% and hit update. But I do actually like that idea of above the candles, that I'm below them, and now it's just waiting for up pressure. It's going
Sure.
to get me in the trade. If I absolutely want to be in this thing, that is a great way to do it.
And where you're at on this particular grid, Doug, that it makes sense. You're at a good place. If we see some up pressure, it makes great sense to go ahead and just get into this trade. But sometimes we're turning these functions back on
Right,
because we're thinking, oh, if it gets to here, I want to take this trade. Well, we got to make sure then that we're stopping and putting the right information in before coming into the trade. Because believe me, I've had this happen lots of times where I'm coming in to take a trade at a lower barrier and I forgot to do something and it takes the trade like it was supposed to do. There was a little up pressure, it takes the trade. Sometimes we wanted that to happen, sometimes we don't want that to happen. So it's just good to remember all of the different things that you can think about before turning your grid back on.
right. And now I can see where it's going to try to execute, and I can see that that's really not. If I'm not willing to just go ahead and get in, I'm not interested in here. I'm interested in down here. So I'm gonna adjust it one more time. And this is nice. That's why we put the dots on the screen so you can see where this thing is going to take place, right? And it's to be really clear, it's silly, right? This is maybe a half or a quarter% to risk not getting in for a half or quarter%. If I'm going to risk not going to get in, I want at least a percent or two to have a better entry. Okay. And again, I show no up pressure yet. So the odds are I am going to come deeper. So I'm
Yeah.
not, if I want in, I want in. But I'm not going to do something silly like this, right?
Right.
So,
And just to be clear, that update and buy is not going to wait for up pressure. It is just going to buy exactly where the market is. So make sure you're understanding that when you're setting up or when you're adding a pullback line. Yeah.
so let's go to 38 and see if it puts me where I want it. And I'm just going to play with this because it's showing you guys what we can do, right? And I'm going to hit refresher because it's wanting to hit refresh. So it'll do it on its own. It'll run the cron job, but I'm forcing it to do it quicker by hitting the refresh. Now look at, I came down another percent and it really put it right where I want it, Deb.
Beautiful.
So I like that right there. And it is a percent below where I was at. And that was about a half a percent below probably the market. So my guess is I'm about 1.5% to 1.25% below the market. Oh, I'm 2. Yeah. Okay. Well, there you
Oh,
have it.
I like it. So your first rule is going to hit as soon as you cross that barrier, right? As soon as you cross that
Yep.
exactly where you want that trade to be taken. And if the market continues to drop, nSights will continue to drop with it. It's not going to take the trade until it feels some of that up pressure and
Right.
gets you in there. I love
Right.
that.
Well, so we closed the Doge line, used some of that money, right?
Mhm.
We used all the Doge money, I think.
Mhm.
Can't remember, did we have 50 or $100 in Doge?
50. You had 50,
Okay, so
yeah.
yeah, so we used all the Doge money and we still have a little bit of money left over. to either look at a brand new coin on Friday or analyze these again and see if our impression or opinion about what to do with these has changed on Friday. So that's it, Deb.
I love it. I love it. What a great training, Doug. Thank you so much for taking us through. It's good to understand how to look at our grids and analyze and kind of what should I be thinking about when I'm making a decision on what to do next. So this is a phenomenal training. And guys, if you like what you're learning, we're using nSights specifically. We've got a platform here. Anybody can use it. Go to our website at nSights DeFiTrader.io. That's nSights DeFiTrader.io. And you can sign up for an account. Doug, we have the free account now, right? You come in,
Right.
you can have get yourself a platform, and you won't be charged the subscription, the quarterly subscription, until you have 10 wins inside of your nSights account. So we encourage everybody to come out and give this a try. Doug comes on and gives wonderful, amazing trainings 3 times a week so that people can, understand how to make decisions on your accounts. And we'd love to have you. We've also got another platform, Doug, called Digibot,
That's
digibot.com.
correct.
And that one we are in the process of making changes so that it works very much like nSights does, only you're working in a centralized area. So if you are not comfortable with DeFi yet and you'd prefer to work with your Kraken account or outside of the United States, your Binance.com account, you can use Digibot to do just pretty much exactly what we're doing here to trade your coins. Come join us, guys. Doug, thank you so much. That was a phenomenal training. Really appreciate you. Hey, you were going to talk about Otherverse, some of the fun things that are coming.
And I thought, well, we went long, but since you mentioned it, guys, we're doing Otherverse. We're getting people into the beta testing of Otherverse. And I noticed in Otherverse, I think I have it up here. Yeah, it's on my other screen. They, if anybody's ever done a cruise, right? They play bingo on cruises like crazy, at least all the cruises I've been on. And so I'm looking at Otherverse here, and I just got Otherverse installed on one of my other computers. And so I'll probably be joining this. Last night, they did a game night. I'm not sure what they did, but tonight is bingo. Yeah. Yeah. And these are not serious things, guys. These are just beta tests, get you into Otherverse and play around in Otherverse. And I got trivia on Thursday and karaoke on Friday. That ought to be fun.
That's awesome.
So, if you want to sign up for the beta test in Otherverse, get your avatar, get in there, learn how to move around. Again, this is just for beta testing and putting some stress tests on Otherverse and get in there and get things going. So if you're interested in that, reach out. Love to see you and definitely on karaoke night. I'd love to see everybody, but
Right.
bingo's fun too. So we might show up tonight for some bingo. So
Well, I don't think we should pass on over that we did have a dance night up further. What was it, like on the
we
12th or the
did.
11th? Right, a dance party with trivia. So there's all kinds of things to do in the metaverse, and Otherverse is a phenomenal platform out there. Everybody come be a beta tester and check it out. My install's almost done, Doug.
All right, we got to look at that. So, yeah,
Almost.
I just logged in before we got on this call, and 2 other people joined in, and one person was in there dancing and doing stuff. I don't know how to do that stuff yet.
And we don't know
I
who those
got
people were yet.
I don't. So I don't. But
Uh,
it was cool. There was 2 people there, and I'm not even sure how to say hi to them.
right.
So, but we're gonna get in there. I'm gonna figure this out because I love Otherverse. And again, to be really clear, this is not all that the Otherverse token is about, right?
No, not
Brian
even
has built the
close.
backbone that other metaverses will build on that backbone. So this is just, putting that backbone, starting to put it to work and testing and things like that. But there'll be many, many things inside Otherverse's metaverse to do, but there'll be many, many metaverses inside metaverse or Otherverse's backbone. So
Right.
there'll be many worlds that we can go into, many things that we can do. We're just starting, guys. Get in, have fun. Lots and lots of cool stuff.
Lots of cool stuff. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Doug. And we will see you on Friday.
Yeah, we're going to make some more decisions, Deb.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much.